Two scuba divers are exploring a remote tropical dive site. But when strong currents carry them away from their boat, they're left stranded 20 miles from land.
What was that?
It's coming right at us!
With no sign of rescue, they have only each other to keep themselves alive. Exhausted, dehydrated, and in a state of constant terror, how long can they survive before they're taken by the sea or the sharks?
I didn't know what to expect going to the Solomon Islands for the first time. I remember getting off the plane and thinking how awfully hot it was.
35-year-old Melissa Armstrong was a hotel manager in Toronto. But fed up with metropolitan life, she quit her job and traveled here in search of adventure.
I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was really wanting to make a change in my life. And I thought, okay, this will be an adventure.
She's found a job working with marine researcher David Tomlinson, who spent almost 30 years studying the oceans.
I began diving in 1963 in the Bahamas. I'm very lucky to be able to study much of our oceans and see things that not a lot of people get a chance to see.
Hey,
Hi.
how you doing?
Good.
Stephen, Peter, this is Melissa.
Hey.
So you all set to see Cavachi?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right, come on aboard.
Cavachi is an oceanic volcano which David has been studying for years. After he filmed this eruption, the volcano disappeared beneath the waves. Now he wants to find out what's left under the surface.
The four of us went out, and I mean, the weather seemed to be ideal. Everything was supposed to go like clockwork.
The dive site is 20 miles offshore. Melissa has never been diving so far from land.
I was excited. I felt good about the dive. It wasn't until I went out there that I thought, oh, wow, I'm really out in the middle of nowhere. And then when we got to the dive site, something inside of me changed, and I thought, there's something wrong.
What's up?
Nothing. Well, I guess maybe I'm just a little nervous.
What about?
I was a little embarrassed because I wanted to be like the guys, one of the guys, and I said, I'm afraid of sharks.
No, you don't have to worry about sharks. They're much more afraid of us than we are them.
I doubt it.
I'm serious. They hardly ever bother divers. Now, if you were up on the surface like a surfer, flapping around, then you look like shark bait. But when you're down below, there's nothing to worry about. Can you zip me up?
If it was me, I wouldn't be worried about the sharks. I'd be worried about you diving right on top of a volcano.
Well, that wasn't something I had ever even contemplated. So now I'm thinking sharks, volcano exploding, sharks and volcano.
Don't listen to him. If it wasn't safe, we wouldn't be here.
But David knows more than he's letting on.
I had heard from the local fishermen that there was a couple big sharks out here, big hammerheads, that have been coming in and bothering some of the local fishermen. But at that stage, she didn't need to know that.
David has dived with sharks before and is confident they won't get attacked while underwater. He's more worried about the weather.
We're watching the weather very carefully because it's very exposed out there. And I noticed off in the distance a funny-looking cloud. It looked like an eyebrow. But it was nothing that deeply concerned me.
David's confident they'll be in and out of the water long before the cloud reaches them.
So what's your dive plan, mate?
Well, we're gonna drop in around 30 meters, have a look around.
The plan is to dive for around half an hour while the boat stays in position above them.
The boatman went over exactly where we would be dropped off, exactly when and where we would be picked up. I didn't pay too much attention. I just let them do their thing. But the anxiety just kept growing and growing.
Come on in, the water's fantastic.
Then I got my gear on. I looked at the boatman and I said,
Here I go. Say a prayer for me.
and I thought, well, why did I say that? The dive was completely different than anything I'd ever experienced. It was amazing. We started going through this white haze. It was quite dreamlike, and there were bubbles funneling up around us coming from the vents of Kavachi.
The volcano is out of sight beneath the divers, far deeper than they can safely descend. All they can see are clouds of sulfur dioxide rising towards them from below.
It was such an amazing celestial scene. It was just breathtaking.
After 30 minutes, the divers surface.
That was amazing, wasn't it?
It was awesome.
The weather has changed dramatically. The dark cloud David spotted earlier is now above them.
God, it's really choppy now.
Yeah.
There's the boat, it's miles away.
Yeah, the current must be really strong. Hey! Hey, guys! Hey!
We're behind you!
Hey!
I remember thinking, oh, okay, that's no big deal. I was just looking forward to getting in the boat and putting a towel around myself. And then they didn't turn around.
They got the engines on. I can't hear us over the engine. Turn them off! Cut the engines! Turn it off! Hey!
I said, David, why aren't they turning around? And he couldn't answer that question.
You're yelling, you're screaming at the top of your voice. Why isn't he looking? We're here. Can't you see us?
The boatmen know the divers must be out of air by now. They expect to see them surface, but the dark sky has made the divers impossible to spot. While the engine is keeping the boat in position, they have no idea that a strong current is pulling the divers further away.
Where are they going?
They're not going anywhere. It's,
They are.
no, it's the current. It's pulling us away. Hey!
Yes, you feel anger. You feel like, come on, turn around and have a look at us. Why aren't you looking at us?
Hey!
The current was pushing us away. We could see him. They couldn't see us.
Running the engine to hold the boat in position is burning up fuel. If the boatmen don't leave soon, they risk being stranded. One of them makes a desperate attempt to locate the missing divers, but he has no idea just how far away they are now. With the fuel tank almost empty, the boatmen have no other choice but to return to the island to get help.
Guys! No!
It happened quite quickly. We watched them disappear, as if the sea swallowed them up. I said, David, this is bad. This is really, really, really bad.
David and Melissa are now stranded, alone in the ocean. The nearest land is more than 20 miles away. All they can do is pray for rescue.
I still had faith that they would come back, ride over the waves like heroes and pluck us out of the water. But they didn't.
We are absolutely alone, miles away from land. I knew we were in trouble.
So do you think we could swim for it?
No. It's too far. They're gonna be looking for us down current. I think we should just stay put. Huh?
I said, let's not ruin the chance of them finding us, because the boat driver was the only one that knew we were in trouble, and he knew that if he'd come looking for us, he'd come down current. So we were going to stay down current.
How do you know they're coming back?
Well, if they went to get gas, it's an hour there, and it's an hour back, so. I think we'll be out of the water by 4 o'clock the latest. Yeah?
David had come up with a timetable, so to speak, of when the boatman might return, which was about 4 o'clock. I thought, okay, we might be here a while. But then the uncertainty started seeping in.
David, are you looking for something?
Just being aware, that's all.
I really, really, really do not want to get eaten by sharks.
Hey, you need to calm down.
I think at that point, a bit of anger was coming in. He should have known better. How could we be in this situation?
Please don't tell me to calm down. We're in the middle of the ocean. You've lost that boat.
I think I have the right to vent here. I won't say what I said, but I swore a little bit.
Melissa's reacting as one might expect. She had a little bit of a dummy spit, and she was swearing profusely. She's relying on me to ensure that everything went smoothly. And at that stage, I'd shot myself in the foot big time. And it just was turning sour as the moments went on.
David and Melissa ignore each other, forgetting they're floating in a powerful current.
David! David!
The current pushes that far away. It was scary.
Come here.
We had to try to swim against a knot to a knot and a half current.
Swim to me.
Just a couple seconds of being apart, I thought, oh my gosh, we just can't let that happen.
I took her regulator, shoved it in through my BC, which was an easy way of making sure that we didn't get separated. Because separation in a scenario like that can be deadly. Not that I'm not a control freak, but I had to help stay in control for us to survive.
David said, let's just conserve our energy. That's the most important thing right now. So the plan was that I would wrap my legs around his waist and my arms around his neck. So his face was right here. But I didn't want to look at his face. I didn't want to be in that situation. I didn't want to be in the middle of the ocean. But what choice did I have?
Hey! Hey!
20 miles away, the boatmen get back to the island and raise the alarm.
Lost 2 divers out there.
The locals know the seas around here well. They've all heard the stories of giant hammerhead sharks preying on fishermen. They know they may not have long, and search parties race out on the hunt for the missing divers. David and Melissa can only hope that help is on its way. But with each passing hour, they're getting more nervous.
In the Solomons, there's a phenomenal amount of sea life there. Our biggest fear at that stage, I believe, was sharks.
I'd imagine them circling below us. This big mouth coming up and tearing into one of us.
What was that?
What?
Was that you?
What?
Something's on my leg. Ah! Get it off!
It's my gauge. It's my gauge.
Let's get it off
I'm
me!
trying. Would you stop kicking? Look, there's nothing down there.
There's everything down there.
If there's anything dangerous down there,
Like sharks, you mean?
yeah.
Just say it!
Yeah, and you keep kicking and splashing, the shores ain't gonna come and check us out, right?
All I could think about was sharks. One nibble, one drop of blood in the water, and then we're gone.
The search parties have finally reached Kavachi, but they have no idea that David and Melissa have already drifted miles away in the current. They continue to search above the volcano. David was convinced they'd be found by 4 o'clock. Now it's almost 5. They're still 20 miles from land, and there's no sign of rescue.
It was very clear that David wanted to stay still. He didn't want to move. He wanted to conserve his energy. I remember turning around and just looking all around me and just seeing all this water. And then looking at the land again and thinking, there's no other option.
I really think we should try and swim.
David looked in my eyes and he knew at that point that there's no arguing. We're gonna start swimming.
Okay. Take it nice and easy, okay? No splashing. I'm gonna keep my hand underwater. You keep a lookout, okay? Nice and easy.
Okay.
I remember him saying, let's just get very slowly, peacefully on the surface, just moseying through. There's no reason to bring attention to ourselves, and don't kick too hard because we'll just get exhausted.
With 30 years diving experience, David knows that splashing about on the surface creates its own risks.
I didn't want to become part of the food chain because having watched the oceans and observed what happens there my whole life, there was a pretty strong likelihood that some sharks would come up and have a good look at us. You're on edge, totally. It was not a good feeling, not at all.
While David keeps watch below the surface, Melissa scans above for any sign of danger.
You see these pointed gray waves, and then all of a sudden you think you see fins.
What?
And so your mind plays tricks with you.
What?
Nothing. Sorry.
It was a constant battle to not let my imagination go.
But the dangers beneath the waves are not just in Melissa's mind.
Ow! Something gripped me.
What? Where? What? Ow!
Then I looked in the water, and there were millions of these little globs, little translucent balls.
Oh, jellyfish! I look, they hurt. They're not gonna kill you, okay? Swim through.
We were swimming through countless amounts of them. We were getting stung all over the place. I remember trying to count the stings. I got up to 64. But then it all blended into one. It was just the zapping pain that was shooting through my entire body.
Oh, my lip is killing me.
My hands are on fire.
That's okay. I'll go down in about an hour. Are you okay to go on?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Desperate to escape the jellyfish, the divers splashed around on the surface. They've broken David's golden rule and become a magnet for predators.
As I'm looking around, I'm looking straight down, and I see this little dot coming.
I felt David, he pulled me to the right, abruptly.
David, what are you doing?
I pulled back, and he pulled me, and I'm like, what?
It was coming straight at me from the depths, literally, from what I could see, straight at my face. It was this huge, ugly barracuda, probably 5.5 feet. They can be very aggressive, and they have been known to attack people before.
David knows the great barracuda has a ferocious bite.
All he has to do is hit me in my hand, my arm, my leg. If I start bleeding, I've got another major problem. I've got a problem with sharks.
Against two sets of razor-sharp teeth, David's only defense is his camera.
I needed something to ram and protect us. That was the first thing to use.
It circled around us, and then it went off. He couldn't believe it didn't do anything else.
It's gone.
But I kept looking for it because I just didn't want to be caught by surprise by one of those.
With daylight fading, the search parties have no choice but to return to the island. They've spent over 6 hours searching for the missing divers. They'll start again at first light, but everyone knows that by then, the odds are they'll be looking for dead bodies.
As the sun went down, I felt really sad. I didn't understand why they didn't come back for us. I was hurt. How could this be? How could they not come back?
Maybe they're back there looking.
We should just keep swimming. Oh, come on, we're covering good ground.
Outwardly, you're bold and brave, and you're sort of smiling, and inside, you're packing it. Sun was starting to set, and that was the part I was dreading. With night coming, that was a total different scenario because a lot of animals come up to the surface and feed at nighttime. I found myself thinking we were there to get eaten.
Despite David's fears, they're still 15 miles from land. Their only option is to keep swimming. Over 1,000 miles away, David's older brother Owen is at home with his family.
It was about 6:30 at night. I just sat down to dinner, and I got a phone call.
Owen Tomlinson.
And it was David's secretary from Cairns saying, Owen, I've got some bad news for you. David is missing at sea.
What happened?
And I was informed that he went diving and never came up. We just lost our younger sister with cancer about 4 or 5 months previous. My first thought was my 90-year-old mother, whether she could handle the shock of possibly having lost another of her children. So that was very traumatic in that regard.
Okay, I'll get there as soon as I can. Thanks for the call.
As David's brother, of course, the family bond is strong that your first reaction is, what can I do to fix it?
Hello. Yeah, I'd like a flight to the Solomon Islands.
The first flight available was 3:30 in the morning, 8 hours and a bit off. And I felt inept, I guess, as impotent, whatever word is applicable, that I couldn't do anything that time span.
Thank you. Bye.
And David was wherever he was, out at sea somewhere.
As night started wrapping itself around us, it was completely terrifying. Thinking, oh my God, we're gonna be here at night. We're gonna have to deal with what we just dealt with, only in blackness.
What?
Stop.
What
Stop
is it?
swimming. Look, in the water.
All of a sudden, I find that every time we move our arm or our leg, the water's glowing.
Wow!
The mysterious light is caused by microscopic plankton in the water. Any sudden movement makes them glow.
Stop. Stop.
But it's beautiful.
Yeah. We move, we get seen, huh?
That really stopped us from swimming because I said, Melissa, we can't keep swimming now because we're gonna, it's lighting up around us. Something's gonna see us.
But when the divers stop swimming, their body temperature plummets.
I was just shaking so hard. I was so cold. You've got nothing to stand on. There's nothing to sit down on. I just wanted to be out of the water. I wanted something to float by so I could climb on top of it so that I wouldn't have this pressure on my body because it was so consuming and uncomfortable.
I was trying to recharge her batteries, allowing her to stretch out and just try to use a minimum amount of energy, but enough to keep herself warm. We're really getting rather tired. We can't sleep. We don't dare sleep because if we fall asleep, we could drown.
Wow!
'Cause 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 had taken my mask off. And I remember putting my arm through it. I went to reach for it, and it was gone.
Oh, God. Can you see it?
That's horrible, because as far as survival is concerned, that's such an important tool.
Something just touched my leg.
So was that you? Was that your fin, David?
Well, that wasn't me.
Oh my God! Oh.
I feel just a little bump, just like something brush up against me. I said, is it sharks? Is it sharks? Is it sharks?
David and Melissa have been adrift in the South Pacific for over 12 hours. Trails of luminous plankton have made them stop swimming. Whatever's causing the flashes now, it's not them.
Oh my God! What was that?
We were seeing little explosions of light within, 5-10 meters of us.
Ah! God! Did you see that?
There'd be a flicker of light, and then another one, and then another one.
What sort of fish they were, I don't know. Any minute, you expect something's gonna hit you.
Oh my God!
Your fear's unbelievable. The night was the most stressful time I've ever had in my life. It's as far as your emotional lows are concerned, that'd have to rank up there with them, because I've never been so hopeless. Every minute that we're out there, you become less convinced that we're gonna get out of it.
We're in a really bad place here. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Part of what we went through was discussing what we pass on if I don't survive. Tell my kids I love them. And my family. It's scary. Oh.
It was really important for me that if he were to survive, I wanted him to tell my mom and dad that they were good parents. He started crying, and he said, "You're gonna live to be very old. You're gonna have children." And that was hard. I had fought against the idea of death. And then this transition happened where you're talking about it. You're accepting it.
David and Melissa were 19 miles out at sea. I'm looking out the windows of my plane, and it's black. And I'm thinking, they're down there in the water somewhere, and it's black. You really feel very useless, because there's nothing you can do. A lot runs through your mind, it really does. I kept thinking that this is kind of like a bad dream, and everything will, you'll wake up and everything will be just the way it was. Obviously, I hope he's alive and he's floating somewhere. If not, what do I do? How do I bring a body back?
There was one point where I thought maybe David can just hold me under. I couldn't allow myself to die that way. I couldn't do that to my family. I couldn't dishonor them. I couldn't do it. Or I just said, David, I don't care. I don't care if I die. I gotta die trying. I'm not gonna lay here anymore.
We gotta swim. We gotta swim. David, please. Please.
And he said, okay, all right, let's go for it. He said, just go really slow. And so we kicked, and we didn't stop kicking. After living through that darkness and then seeing the light, it just changed. It just gave me something I didn't have. It was glorious just seeing that sun.
It was one of the finest sunrises I've ever seen in my life. It's just to watch the light come up was great.
And then I could actually see for the first time the land. I could see that it was actually tangible.
Oh, you're closer. It is closer.
My eyes were completely glued to the land. That's all I could think about.
Melissa may be feeling more positive, but David is 20 years older than her. While he allowed her to rest during the night, he's been awake since 6 a.m. yesterday.
As we went on, I was getting really tired. I've been going for 24 hours at that stage.
He started acting very erratically. I remember watching his snorkel slowly sink into the water. And just when it was about an inch from the surface, I would nudge him and he'd pop his head back up.
David, you okay? You all right?
Seeing him like that scared me a lot. I remember thinking, what if he drowns?
David's brother, Owen, has finally reached the Solomon Islands. Even though there's no official search and rescue, there is a helicopter service, but it's a private company.
When we got the helicopter chartering service, they weren't really sitting around waiting for me. They were doing other things. And I'm standing in the counter saying, come on, you know, I want to get this up and going.
Hi.
Yes, sir.
I need a helicopter as soon as possible.
Okay, what for?
My brother's gone missing near Kavachi.
I'll have to talk to my boss first. So if you'd like to take a seat, then I'll just be right back.
I was hoping they would be out at first light, but it was probably closer to 8 in the morning. It was a bit upsetting because we wanted to find the two of them as quickly as possible.
Mr. Tomlinson, good news. We've got a chopper on standby for you.
Oh, that's great.
And I said, well, get them out there, get them going.
But unfortunately, we're a commercial operation, so I'm gonna have some form of payment up front so we can get you in the air.
I had no idea what the currency in the Solomons was, and I certainly didn't have a suitcase full of whatever currency they would accept.
This do?
That'll be fine. 1 minute.
So the good old plastic came in handy, and it worked.
Okay, boys, we're right to go.
All Owen can do now is wait. David and Melissa have swum 14 miles without rest, food, or fresh water. They're still 6 miles from land, and the tropical sun is beating down on them relentlessly.
I was so grateful the sun came up, but it was also a blessing and a curse because I could feel the side of my face burning, and I remember trying to put my head in the water to cool it off for a little bit. My lips were so raw and swollen, and now the sun was burning them, so they were starting to blister. My skin was wrinkly and flaking. You feel like you're slowly getting eaten by salt water.
David is both physically and mentally exhausted.
I was dehydrated, I was starving. I was running on less than empty at that stage. I was starting not to think straight.
All right. David? You okay? You okay to swim on?
I remember him looking at the land and saying, "Oh, look at those condominiums." And I said, "There's no condominiums." That's really when I realized he was fading. He wasn't making any sense.
I was getting closer to almost total exhaustion, and all of a sudden, we finally heard it.
It's a helicopter!
That wakes you up fast.
It's the helicopter chartered by David's brother. Rescue is finally in sight.
Oh, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
It was amazing, and here it comes, and we waved and did all the right things. But we're wearing suits that are black and blue. We don't stick out.
We need something reflective. Over here! Find something reflective. Hey!
We made it through this hellish night. The sharks didn't get us. Yay, here's the helicopter, and they're here to save us, and everything's gonna be okay. And they got closer and closer, and we're trying to signal, and then they turned.
They can't see it.
And then they went off. And that was disheartening, to say the least. Then we just pressed on towards land.
Let's swim. Come on.
Because there's no other choice but to keep going.
The exhausted divers are only 4 miles from land. But for David, this is the most terrifying part of the entire journey.
I didn't totally mention to Melissa at that stage that I believe the greatest fear we're going to have is that last bit, right in close to the shore, because it's an area I wanted to fish, because there's so much sea life there, including your upper major predators. And at the same time, I didn't tell her about 2 big 20-plus foot hammerheads that I heard about that have been bothering the fishermen. So that deeply concerned me, but she didn't need to know that.
But what David doesn't know is that his fins have been chafing his ankles. He's now bleeding profusely. Hammerhead sharks can smell 1 drop of blood in 1,000,000 drops of seawater. It's only a matter of time before David attracts attention.
I remember thinking, what's that piece of plastic sticking out of the water? It looks like a sailboat's on its end, or like almost like a kayak sticking straight up out of the water. Well, what What's that plastic?
Oh, David! David! I saw a shark.
What?
I saw a fin.
That woke me up.
What?
I said, did it sort of look like this? And she says, yeah. And what I sketched with my finger was a dorsal fin of a hammerhead shark.
Just offshore, they've spotted a hammerhead shark.
I'd never seen anything like this. It was huge.
You're talking a 6+ meter shark. That's a big shark.
I figured if it's gonna happen, I want it to happen fast. I hope it doesn't bite my leg. I hope it just sinks its teeth right into my heart. And bang, it's over with.
This was my greatest fear. You're just hoping that that shark isn't hungry. With all the bad things that have happened, a little bit of good luck would be nice right now. The hardest problem is that you know it's still nearby. You're still waiting in the back of your mind, it's going to sneak up on you.
The divers make a last desperate attempt to reach land. After 26 hours in the ocean and an agonizing 20-mile swim, they're finally just a few hundred yards from their goal. But getting ashore is far more dangerous than they ever imagined.
This wasn't a sandy beach that we would float up to gently. This was an extremely pitted, jagged, horribly craggy shoreline.
David, look at the rocks.
I knew that with our bodies being so soft, so pliable, our skin just being mushy, all I could think of was how badly we're gonna be torn up.
26 hours in the water has taken its toll on their skin.
I looked at my hands, and my hands were just unbelievably wrinkled from being in the water for so long. And right in the corner of my thumb, just where my nail meets, a bit of flesh had fallen off. At that stage, our flesh is so soft from being in the water so long, it's not going to take much to hurt ourselves badly. It just takes a little piece of rock that's sticking up, and it's going straight through you.
The rocks could be lethal, but the shark might return at any moment. It's a do-or-die decision.
Give me your vest.
I discussed with Melissa exactly what we're going to do. We've worked out a plan.
Put that out in front of you. The body surfing on these, okay?
So now I'm thinking, how on earth we're going to body surf and survive? But what choice did we have? It was completely terrifying.
We're 100 meters from the shoreline, but the odds were that we weren't going to survive.
You ready?
And I just happened to turn left, and I don't know why I turned left and looked.
And then I heard him say, "I'll be damned. There's a boat." It was unbelievable. It couldn't have been at a more beautiful time.
It was an unbelievable feeling. Absolutely unbelievable feeling. Because then it was just like one of the heaviest weights you'd ever have in your life lifted off your shoulder.
Next thing I know, the boat's next to us, and they're pulling me out of the water. And I'm like, I was this crazy mad woman. I was crying and laughing. was just lost at sea. I was just lost at sea for 26 hours. The sharks didn't eat us. We didn't die. I'm alive.
David and Melissa swam 20 miles before they were finally rescued and returned to dry land.
There was my brother Owen. Greatest sight in the world.
I didn't know whether to hug him or belt him over the head. I really didn't.
God, David, what have you done now?
But he's a bit sunburned, so I didn't want to give him too big a slap. I gave him a hug instead.
Hi, I'm Owen.
I said, you do this again, boy, and you're on your own. I'm not flying halfway around the world to save your ass. Oh, sorry, kid.
And it was just great to see him. Ever since then, every morning you wake up, it's wonderful to start a day, standing on dry land.
David still lives in the Solomon Islands and dives regularly. But Melissa returned home and hasn't done an open water dive since. The two of them remain good friends.